What's going on, everyone? D-Ninja here, and I'm back with a new segment to the channel. This is Arena EDH. This is for EDH players on Arena, otherwise known as Historic Brawl. And in this series, we'll be analyzing the pros and cons of each commander that I cover, the bones for a basic deck, and my final thoughts and grade on the deck, how well it should do against the meta depending on how it's built or piloted. And today's commander is one you've seen on the channel before if you've been watching my channel for a little while now. It's Ghalta, Primal Hunger. So for 10 colors, you get a legendary Elder Dinosaur. It costs X less to cast, where X is the total power of creatures you control. It also has Trample. It can hit extremely hard, but I'll cover it more in depth here in just a minute. So first off, we'll cover the pros of Ghalta Primal Hunger. Number one is the price. Even in paper, this deck is super cheap, and depending on how it's piloted / built, it can be a real threat in certain circles. Number two, it's so easy to play. I mean, this deck is pretty much throw it together, turn your brain off, and just stomp the battlefield with big stompy dinosaurs and other creatures. So the cons of the deck is, number one, low ceiling. Don't expect this deck to win you any big tournaments or anything. You might win locals here and there, but overall this deck probably doesn't have the highest ceiling for commander decks. Number two, it's not versatile. There's really only two ways to play Ghalta. I'll cover those here in a little while, but just so y'all are aware, not a whole lot of versatility with this deck. And probably the biggest one, especially for me being, well, I love my board wipes and whatnot, but number three, no board wipes. Especially on Arena, there are no colorless board wipes, and green is not really particularly known for its board wipes. In paper, you might have better luck with colorless board wipes, but on Arena, we really don't have a whole lot. So with the pros and the cons out of the way, let's jump right into the bones of a Ghalta deck. So the basic strategy of a Ghalta deck, you want big stompy creatures, ramp, and card draw. Now I know that's pretty much almost every commander deck wants ramp and card draw, but with Ghalta it's a little more difficult, but it's a little easier too. And we'll cover that here in just a second. Because on Arena we don't have access to a lot of the commander staples, we need to run a lot of utility spells, enchantments, and utility creatures. And you don't have to play these cards, but these are just some options to consider. So first up we got Seriath the Viper's Fang. Other untapped creatures you control have Hexproof, other tapped creatures you control have Death Touch. So whenever they attack, they gain Death Touch. And for one tapped Seriath, target creature you control, you can untap it. Or a land, it's up to you. Next up we got Ubenwald Oddity. Trample, haste, 4/4 for 4. For 7 you can transform him, and he gives all your other creatures 1/1, trample, and haste. So you can see the utility in this creature right here. Next up, a personal favorite of mine. If you don't mind spending the Mythic Wild card, I would definitely suggest picking up Vorinclex Monstrous Raider. Trample, haste. Whenever a counter is put on something you control, double it. Whenever a counter, including their planeswalkers, is put on their side of the field, you half it. So Vorinclex is a good way to slow the game down in case Ghalta can't stick on the field. Any commander deck is not complete without card draw. So first up we got Keeper of Fables. Whenever a non-human creature you control deals combat to a player, you draw a card. Yes, that does stack multiple times, and most of the things you want to play in your Ghalta deck aren't humans anyways, so you're always going to have a full hand. If you want to spend the Mythic Wild card on it, this is another card I recommend, Battle Mammoth. It's a 6/5 for 5 with Foretell, and it has Trample. Also, the most important effect, whenever a permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or an ability your opponent controls, you may draw a card. So this is another card that will keep your hand full. If you want to, like I said, if you want to spend the Mythic Wild card on it, I highly recommend it. And this card, without question, needs to be in almost every green deck that you have. This is Elder Gargaroth. It's a 6/6 for 5, Vigilance, Reach, and Trample. And whenever Elder Gargaroth attacks or blocks, you can make a 3/3 beast token, gain 3 life, or draw a card. I don't even need to really explain why this is good, but if you spend 1 mythic on anything, it would probably be that card. So unlike other commander decks, I would highly recommend playing Mana Dorks over Mana Rocks in a Ghalta deck. And this is really just simply due to your 1/1 for 1 that taps to add 1 is paying 2 for Ghalta, so it ramps you out a lot quicker than Mana Rocks can. The other card that I highly recommend you spend your other Mythic Wild on is the Great Henge. This card can come down very early, very quickly. It's a Mana Rock, it gains you life, makes a creature stronger, and also draws you a card. You couldn't ask for more. And lastly, we got Colossal Majesty. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw a card. It only draws you 1 card, but this deck's always going to have creatures with power 4 or greater on the field. So first up, we'll be grading the commander, then we'll grade the deck as a whole, then I'll give you my final thoughts. We're going to grade the commander on its ability and effectiveness. So Ghalta's ability allows you to ramp it out quicker with the more power you have on board. However, if you have nothing on board, say due to a board wipe or just a ton of removal, you're not going to do anything and you're just going to be stuck with an empty field. So for ability, I'm going to give Ghalta a 3 out of 5. Somewhere right in the middle. It's good when it works, but it's bad when it fails. As for effectiveness, against the meta, because, well, really on Arena there is no defined meta at this time, I'm just going to put a question mark here because I've been stomped by Ghalta decks and I've also just absolutely destroyed Ghalta decks. So maybe I'll give it like another 3. That sounds fair. So now we'll be grading the deck. We'll be grading the deck on consistency, power, recovery, and overall. As for consistency, Ghalta decks are generally fairly consistent. You won't be mulling to oblivion anytime soon. They have a lot of card draw. They have a lot of ramp. So for consistency, I will give it, I'll be generous, a 4 out of 5. For power, Ghalta decks are like the Karma Train. They're going to bulldoze you. So for power, I'm going to give Ghalta a 5 out of 5. This deck hits hard, fast, and just wins game through sheer brute force. For recovery, well, I'd love some. No, I'm kidding. But recovery is very bad in this deck. We're playing mono green. We do have some revive spells, but they're pretty few and far between. So I got to give recovery a 1 out of 5. There's not a ton going on here. As for the overall deck strength, I'm going to give it a, I'll be generous, 5 to 7 out of 10. Like I said before, I've been completely bulldozed by Ghalta decks, and I've also just completely stomped Ghalta decks. It's hard saying one way or another, but I feel comfortable at least giving it a 5 to 7. It just depends. So my final thoughts on Ghalta, I love this deck. It's one of the few commander decks I still have in paper because it's beginner friendly, it's budget friendly, it's got a decent power level, but not something like you'd see at like competitive EDH games or anything like that. Overall, Ghalta is still one of my favorite commanders, even if the power level's low, even if, whatever. I still enjoy this deck, and I hope people out there enjoy this deck too. But anyways, I'm D Ninja. I hope you enjoyed the new segments. They'll be a little more fragmented because they're a lot harder to do than the actual Gemmer Jank or Friday Night Brawls. But I'm signing out. Goodbye, y'all.